Okay, we're alive. We've got to make the head, the thing to work so that they just gently, please. Forward a little bit, yeah. Good. But we need to make it. I'm cut off a little bit. Yeah. Just too much for him. We cut him off now too. We don't want to do it. Okay. All right. I think we have somebody online already. Who is there? I would like you to greet us. So I want to welcome our audience on YouTube before we go to Facebook. Facebook will soon come and join us, but they always come to join us a bit later. But before then, let's welcome who is there on YouTube. Who is that? Doris John. Okay, welcome, Doris. Okay, we are going to be having book review today, and that book review is one of my best sellers these days. That is, you need anything or that? No? Okay. So it's I don't even know which one is bestseller these days but this one is very popular with everybody because people want to know and discover who they really are, and they think it's thorough. Somebody was just telling me today, actually, it is Mayowa herself telling me that she was trying to, before she met me, before she discovered who Pastor Sunday is, she was in a quest of who she is. She wanted to discover herself and about life, the purpose of life and everything. So, and the book she got was a book that is very popular, really. That book she got is one of, at least the most popular. I tried to read the book, but I couldn't finish it because I just didn't feel that that book was, I know I've written a better book, so, so I didn't feel it was what people thought it was. And I thought, well, in a place when the whole world is in need of something, you need to give them something. So it's better for the world to have something than not to have anything. So the book that she got, that Mayowa got, when she was looking for my book and looking for a way, not my book, she was looking to find herself, to discover who she was in life. The book that was most popular and that everybody, not just Christians, even unbelievers are buying this book, and everybody is looking for this book. The book is, I think, what do you call it? Purpose-Driven Life. Purpose-Driven Life. So Purpose-Driven Life is the book that she got. And she said she finished reading the book and she still didn't discover who she was. And she still didn't help her. Because it's a bit, I think it's a good book in the sense that people are talking about it. I suppose it's a good book because it's very popular. It's the most sold out book apart from the Bible, actually, that purpose-driven book. So, but I don't know why, but I think it's a question of the world not having the answer, and it had very good exposure, very good promotion. So it's a bestseller of all time, that book. But she was telling me that it's when she got this book, Who Am I? Who am I? This book, Who Am I and Why Am I Here? It is when she got this book that her life changed totally. And but I want to hear the story of CHIMEZIE today. But before then, let me welcome a few people on Facebook. Let me first of all see who is there on YouTube. Okay, we have Doris John on YouTube. We have Collis Anderson on YouTube. Lester Beauty. And then we have Abraham Dawood. Okay, Lester Beauty is saying, Sir, Sunday Adelaja, I am really sorry I was against you before. But thank God my eyes have now been opened through you. Please forgive me. Wow, you must be a humble lady. Most people will just be quiet about it. Most people would not like me to know about that. But still, I still have a lot of people who are against me. In fact, right now there is a popular debate and a popular, what do you call it, they are spreading popular article, popular view. Okay, popular view that is being spread right now all over the church in Nigeria that I'm sent. I'm an agent of Satan, sent sent by Satan to destroy the church of the Lord Jesus Christ in Nigeria. And they are even saying that I used to be a pastor in Ukraine. They said I used to be a pastor in Ukraine, and now I've been fired from my church. I am no more a pastor. And because I'm no more a pastor that has been fired from a church, so I'm angry. I'm angry at all pastors, at all churches.
It's normal to have those kinds of views. It's just normal. It's the way society goes when you cannot follow it or keep a popular trend or voice, they would always look for a reason. After all, Jesus Christ, like we know, right? Well known, they said it was Beelzebub. He must be doing these things by the power of Beelzebub. And they wondered why he kept speaking about himself and all those things. So it's normal. Even Paul, after he started doing the right things, he became an anti-establishment. So I'm not surprised. I think one of the ways to know that you're on track is when people begin to attack you. That tells that there must something good you're doing and that they cannot stand.
I would like to ask everybody that's watching us to go please and share the message. Let's quickly go and share the message on Facebook. Go. It's going to be an interesting day and an interesting topic, I suppose, because we are going to be talking about who am I. That is at the core of who every one of us is. So if you are on Facebook, please go share the link. Go share the link. Victor A.V., John Osamage, Abraham Aruna, Ufoma Anigoro, Asani Ajogun, Joe Fierce, Rebecca Gollery, Tommy David, Aza Sarah, Eric Lindo, Ifiayi Obekile, Kalin Kali, Favor Efe, and Kiro Ojibadu is here, Rebecca Shinasa. All of you that are there, please go and share the message, go and call your friends, and this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I know CHIMEZIE, the person I'm hosting today, because he's been contributing. I like his thoughts. I like his mind. So I am sure it's going to be interesting for all of you. So that's why I'm encouraging you to go ahead and share the message. Go ahead and share the link. Go out and call upon everybody you could get. And let's discuss this topic that will be able to transform a lot of people, actually. So this is the book we are discussing. It's called Who Am I? Why Am I Here? Who am I? Why am I here? So this is the book. Who am I? Why am I here? And now I want to introduce my my guest today. His name is CHIMEZIE UGURU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
CHIMEZIE UGURU. Now, CHIMEZIE, tell us about yourself.
Okay. First of all, I come from a family of 3 children. I'm the oldest. I was born 40-something years ago. I have, when it comes to education, I have my careers or my educational beginning in the social sciences. My BSc is in government and public administration. To be honest with you, it was actually a course that I didn't plan to go into.
I wanted to ask, how did you get there? Because I think you should be more of science kind of student.
No, I don't even think I'm good in science, sir.
Okay.
I actually think that's government and public administration, sociology, media, all those things are the things I was actually cut out for. But you know, when we were growing up, we didn't have good counselors educationally who would try to help us accomplish some of the things this book you're talking about helps you to do, which is why I have a lot of interest in that book. Because I wanted to become an accountant.
No.
Oh yes.
Accountant?
Yes. Yeah.
I still understand media, sociology. I still understand that, but accountant?
That's the funny thing, because at the time when I was leaving the secondary school to go to the university, that was when Babangida's government in Nigeria had licensed the new banks. So the Zenith, Citizens Bank, Diamond Banks, and they were looking flashy, well-dressed.
And that is not the way you say it. You say that is where the money was.
Yeah, that was where the money was. But also their lifestyle, the image was very attractive. And I will be lying to you and to the audience if I don't say those were catch things that some of us saw and said, you know what, I want to be an accountant. Or read banking and finance. So I got admission to read banking and finance.
But what did your parents say?
They didn't really have any choice. My father wanted me to be an economist.
So it was okay for him.
In fact, my father wanted me to become a military man.
Ooh.
I actually registered to write the Nigerian NDA, and he had friends in the army, people who could help me get into it. But my mom was not interested because I was the only son, and she was praying that it doesn't work out.
Wow.
And as fate would have it, sir, the week I was supposed to write that exam, I got admission into the university. And got to the university to read banking and finance. And somehow, I got registered to read government and public administration. So that's why I said it wasn't something I planned, but that was just God in his own way guiding that step. And I got in, and I thank God. That was what I began to find out, that I was more into being able to talk.
But that was divine intervention.
Exactly. And I think I'm very fortunate so far. God has been very kind. Not too many people get into fields and that they're not meant to be, and God twists them out of it. Many people go there and they just remain there. Even though I didn't understand it, in some part of me, I was feeling I was doing the wrong thing. How will I go and read this course that is not very popular? But as I began to go into it, current affairs, I began to understand that personally, I'm somebody who loves efficiency. I love administration. I love it when things are done in an orderly manner. So I began to say, okay, I'm actually cut out for these social sciences. I'm actually cut out for things that have to do with government. One of my big dreams is that one day, I will run for office in Nigeria.
To put order, to bring order.
Exactly. The Senate, the Nigerian lawmaking body, the Senate, has underperformed, if you ask me. Many times I sit and I look at what we're doing in the Senate and I say, what exactly are our senators doing? You see, if you compare the American Senate or the House of Commons in the US or the Canadian Senate and compare our Nigerian Senate, it looks to me like people just go there and sit down, lounge, and only fight when things that have to do with their interests are being challenged. I don't see them taking the government, holding the government accountable to say, we gave you a budget last year. How much of this budget have you implemented? Or holding the ministers, accountable to, fulfillment of what their ministry's goal should be. I don't see all those things. What I just see is people fighting for personal needs.
When Jonathan was there, I heard that they used to. What was the performance rate? Was it 35%? They will give you 100% money. They will only perform to 30%.
Exactly. So
and all the money, they don't know where it goes. It has been shared or something.
So I did that. Then I went back to do my master's after I left school and I couldn't get a job. So I told my parents, okay, look, I know you have tried, but can you try one more? I want to go back and do my master's. And I said, okay, sure. And I got admission to University of Ibadan to go and read sociology. And that is actually where my life turned around. Sociology is a course where in Nigeria, we look down on it.
We look down on it, yeah.
Very much. We don't know that in every sphere of our lives, we need a sociologist.
Do you know the professor I had here yesterday?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I listened to her. I was listening.
She was also in University of Ibadan.
I don't think I know her. She may be a very fast senior person.
She's over 70 now.
Yes, she's a fast senior person. But that's a wonderful institution. Sorry to be honest with you. I know we have lovely schools in Nigeria, but I went to Ibadan and my life changed. The mode of teaching, the lecturers, the professors, it wasn't about giving you notes. We used to come in, and that is where these debates and being able to talk. The lecturers will give you the topics 1 week ahead. Every day you take a topic and you come and talk about it.
Are you serious?
Yes, you present it. We talked about even the Russian Revolution.
1 week ahead.
You must go and do that. And that is the one institution I went to where when we go on strike, which was another problem we had when I was growing up, whenever we come back from the strike, we will go back to where the syllabus stopped before we went on strike and continue from there. We don't jump it. When I did my undergraduate, when we come back, they'll just rush us and say, go and write the exam. But in UI, I began to appreciate education. I began to understand that these people really wanted to impact knowledge. And they wanted the quality of their graduates to be something that they can boast about. You understand? So, it was an eye-opener for me. And in fact, to be honest with you, I began to regret why I didn't go there to do my undergraduate, which is where my father wanted me to go. And that's one area he was right. I give it to him. He was right in that area. He wanted me to go to UI, but I didn't want to go to UI. So after I did my master's there, I began to say, wow, I missed something. Maybe I would have been a far better person than I am if I had actually gone through that system. It's one thing for you to go through a system and for the system to also go through you. So I began to appreciate that level. In fact, I'll be honest with you, my best years of education were when I did my master's. That's one of the things that has enabled me to do some independent work, to be able to, I began to love to go to the library to read, to do more research. And so when I started my career, I became a trainer. My first job was as a facilitator in a training company where I was trained by a Jamaican woman. That's another divine opportunity. It wasn't something I was expecting. In fact, I just walked into where they were doing an interview, and a huge lot of people. I didn't plan it.
Was it in where? What city was this?
In Lagos. In Lagos. And the lady who was doing the assessment saw my CV. She said, "Please stand up, hold on for a second." She left everybody and went into the back to see the MD. And she came back and said, "My MD wants to see you." Wow. So I broke all the protocols and all the lines, went past everybody there and went in. And the lady started talking to me. She asked me, "What's your understanding about training?" I explained to her. She said, "Can you explain the steps in training?" I explained to her. And then the next thing I just heard, he says, "Congratulations, you have a job." So I became her assistant. I was training under her. She was teaching me how to become a facilitator, the steps to take, how to prepare your documentations, and all those things. And she started exposing me to big managers. I had never trained people. This was my first job. So I was training directors and managers. I would read the manual, go and prepare with the CDs, and come and deliver this training. People started calling me prof. So that's how.
So your experience in a master's degree, had really prepared you.
Exactly.
So you really had real education at your master's level.
Yes, that's why I say it's my best year of education. I wish if there was a way to undo my education and have, especially from my secondary school and university years, especially university years, first degree, I would have loved it to be the way my master's went, because I was thoroughly brought up. The lecturers, the quality of
University of Ibadan, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's a revelation. That's good to hear that. Although you are I must confess, you are the second person who is saying this. Shioma Nwigwe.
Yes.
The husband is Uchechi
Nwigwe. The name sounds
Uchechi Nwigwe. He went to UI too.
Okay.
But what he told me is similar story, because he said, I think he did his basic education in the East, and maybe first degree too. Then he went for second degree or so in UI.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that was when my life changed. That's what he was saying.
I'll be honest with you. I know I come from the East, but I say it. In fact, I tell people, I hope they are still keeping that standard, because I know at some point they wanted to turn the university into a center for postgraduate studies and remove the undergraduates, but the government didn't allow them to do that. Commonwealth wanted to fund them and make them the center for research. They do a lot of research. If you go to their farms, my roommate rather, was in agriculture, and I saw the quality of agri service he was doing. He would go to his farm. He had a farm to manage. It was practical, and that is one thing that our education in Nigeria needs to begin to think about, making it a bit more practical than theory-based. Our education is largely theory-based, and that's why we're unable to provide people who are very technically sound and entrepreneurs. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who are coming out now, but they're having to do it by themselves through a lot of struggle. But education, there should be a link between the four walls of the university and the corporate environment. There should be that link. There shouldn't be that link, a situation where you finish and you're finding it difficult to implement what you were taught in the classroom in the workplace.
Yeah, because your own testimony now, that just from class, and then it obeyed the trainer immediately, and you're able to pass the test.
Exactly.
And you're able to pass the test, and then immediately go for, work.
Yeah. So that helped me, and then I went to another consulting company where, I learned a bit of business management and in corporate re-engineering. I worked in an organization that played a significant role in the engineering process of the first bank you see today in Nigeria. First Bank was losing market share to the new banks. People were leaving them, because of the slow nature. It was First Bank and UBA and Union Bank used to be like civil service banks.
Yes.
But when this new generation banks came, they started giving the First Banks and the Union Banks and the Afri Banks a lot of challenge. So First Bank wanted to re-engineer so that they would not lose market share. So the company I moved to from the first one won the contract to do that re-engineering, and we used to travel around Nigeria. We go and train their staff on how to change their mindset towards service, letting them know that service is about that the customer is happy, the basics. We did that for a full year. Then we went back to go and check to see if what we had taught them, they were implementing it. And then after a while, we spoke to the management to tell them they needed to do a lot of re-engineering, change a couple of things. Unfortunately, a lot of people had to be laid off because they were old people. But today, you see First Bank is standing stronger.
Very strong. Very strong.
They've even made the symbol, the elephant. An elephant is a very dull,
very sluggish.
But now they've made the elephant look smarter. It's all a product of that particular period where we worked for them, and I thank God for that. So I left there, and then I went to telecom. From telecom, I went to Coca-Cola International, and then I worked for a movie production company in Nigeria called Mnet DSTV before I left and came to Canada.
No, is it you never lived in South Africa, eh?
No, but I used to visit South Africa because I worked for a South African company. I worked for South African companies twice. I worked for MTN, and I also worked for Mnet, and they are both South African companies. So at some time, because of my career, I visited South Africa for work-related issues, but I never lived in South Africa. The place I lived for a little while was Kenya when I worked for Coca-Cola, because Kenya was the hub for our Sub-Saharan African region. So my bosses were in Nairobi, so I used to be there. I started my career for Coca-Cola in Nairobi. Then occasionally I go there to work or deal with projects or for meetings.
But what made you to even consider going to Nigeria during the election to help the political class there?
I was already in Nigeria by that time. I hadn't left.
You were still in Nigeria?
I was still in Nigeria then when the election held.
Ah.
So what happened is, you see, I was in Nigeria when Yar'Adua came to office. So we understand the transition and everything that brought Jonathan. Unfortunately, President Jonathan was the first PhD to become president. And there was a lot of hope. People gave him a chance. He was from the Niger Delta and all that. But in his applications and the things he was doing, a lot of us were not happy. There was a lot of corruption, I'm sorry to say. People may argue over it. There were a lot of corruption. He didn't seem to look like somebody who was in charge. And then the systems were collapsing. So personally, I have always voted for Buhari. I voted for Buhari, except in 1999 when democracy came, when I didn't vote because I registered in Abuja. But when I came back to Lagos,
but you are working for Jonathan, though?
Never worked for Jonathan. Never. The only thing is that when people like Pastor Tunde Bakari,
yes,
he was one of those who insisted that the right thing should be done. Jonathan was the vice president, and then when the Yar'Adua was ill and they didn't want to hand over to him, people like Tunde Bakari, they created a group called Save Nigeria. So even though some of us are not visible, we were the younger ones behind them who were going around with them to push, and eventually it worked. The Constitution, the Senate had to amend the Constitution and do what they refer to as they come up with a policy of the law of necessity, something of necessity, and then Jonathan was made to become acting president and full president.
So you are not doing it for Jonathan, you are doing it for the country.
Just for the right thing. This is what the Constitution says. The Constitution says if the president is incapacitated, then the next person who is his vice should run the affairs of the nation. That is why it's based on that particular thing that when President Buhari was ill, and he had to go abroad for treatment, they remembered that, we've gone through this road before. So Oshibajo must also not be sidelined. So I guess that's where the emphasis on let the vice president be the one in charge. But to be honest with you, there are usually people in the corridors of government who don't want the constitution to be applied to the letter. And so I kind of love Pastor Tunde Bakari, and that's why I always tell people, he is one man that I love his doggedness.
Because he's a lover of truth.
Yes, he's a lover of truth. And I'll be honest with you, he may have his faults, but when it comes to standing on truth, even if he's guilty, he will tell you, I have been guilty of this particular thing. And those are some of the things that endear me to him. And he's well spoken. He speaks out. He doesn't say, "Oh, I'm pastor. It's only for the pulpit and church." If it affects society, you will see him raise his voice, even if his voice is not, is not listened to.
Or it's a low voice.
A low voice. He's also I love, and it was from him I began to understand that there is more to church than just sitting in the pulpits. And I wasn't a member of his ministry. I've never attended his ministry. I go to a different church altogether. I go to Daystar, which is where I met you for the first time when Pastor Sam brought you to come and speak to us. But when it comes to governance, when it comes to seeking that, look, there is a correlation between the church and the word of God and government and society. Give it to Pastor Tunde Bakari. He is one man.
Trailblazer.
Exactly.
Now, there is somebody asking me a question here. I'm sorry, CHIMEZIE.
Yes, go ahead.
There is someone here, Godwin Okezel. Do you have to? Can you stop right there, Pastor, and respond to the allegation against you? Okay, what's the allegation? Let me say. The allegation is that there is a pastor in London called Alex that says that you don't believe in miracles and you don't believe that Almighty God can do miracles. Well, I think a pastor, please let me explain. Well, how can I be from Africa and not believe in me? I don't know any African that doesn't believe in miracle. That's number one. Number two, I saw the video that the man did, Alex whatever, Okuku, or whatever his name is. He has a name, interesting name. I think he's a Nigerian guy for sure. So I think why he came to that conclusion is because I'm showing all the excesses of these Nigerian ministers, all these miracles that I'm showing. I think he disagrees with what I'm doing. I think he just thinks that I cannot believe in miracle and still be exposing the wrongdoings in that terms. But I'm not against miracles. God uses me to do miracle myself. My whole life is a miracle. If you go to Sunday Adelaja official on YouTube, you'll be able to see, even this YouTube, go there and see the series, all my messages, read my history. You will see that it's not true that I don't believe in miracles.
On Sunday, if you permit me for a second, I think the question we should ask ourselves and to people who are conjuring this, inferring that you don't believe in miracles and that the fact that you're trying to pull down the church is, what is miracle? What is the greatest miracle? The Bible says Jesus Christ was talking about renewing our minds. And the greatest miracle that you can have as a child of God, and any nature can pass to you, is a miracle of transformed lives and minds. This miracle of healings of physical legs. Those things are good. These are signs, like you said. These are signs. It says, these signs shall follow you, which the Bible tells us. And in fact, you see that Christ always ran away from whenever they wanted him to do those things. He told them, you didn't come to me because of the word of God you are learning from that will change your life. You're coming because of the bread I did miracle on yesterday and multiplied and you ate plenty. You're coming to me because of all those other transient things I call them. But the greatest miracle God wants is the miracle of transformed lives.
Yeah.
How many people are going to read the books you have or listen to this and their life get changed?
Transformation.
Exactly. So I think we're missing it. And these are the things the pagans run after, which you have mentioned. So I think people need to go back, read their Bible, read books, take a course, ask themselves questions, which is the base of today's conversation anyway, because this book, this Who Am I, It's a question. Why am I here? It's a question. And like they say, inventions, they come as a result of people asking questions. How can we make it better? What can we do? Are we asking those questions? Even in the church, if the church starts asking, how can we be more relevant to society? How can we help our people in these times of economic crunch? Those are the things from which God will begin to answer questions and give us successes. But people are busy asking for handouts. Miracles are handouts. They want to go and sit down, and then they'll be told, put your hand on your head, do all those things. Like what Naaman said in the Bible. I thought he will come out, wave his hand, do like this, and he's telling me to go and wash myself. So people are not. They don't want to be told to go and do something. They want to be given something, and that is basically the perspective I think Nigerians and most Africans are coming from when it comes to miracle issue. But to be honest with you, I don't think you need to waste your time about that. Answer as much as you can. Look, there will come a time when the truth remains bare for people to see, so that we don't waste our time. There is so much work to be done.
Yes.
There are lots of lives to be changed. There are people who need to be put on track to fulfilling their goals and aspirations. Mm. So that's why I was telling Maiwa earlier that, when I read this book, I was like, oh my gosh. My heart was like, God, how much time do I have? I'm sure we're going to come there eventually when questions start coming. Before
we handle the book, can I ask everybody that is watching, before we start dealing with this book, please quickly, fast, quickly go and find somebody and tell them that we are going to be discussing this book now, and that it is revolutionary. It is going to be revolutionary. So please go ahead and call your friends and let them come and join us. And don't forget, we have this campaign going on. It's called Libya One Challenge. It's $1 challenge for the victims that have gone through Libya and been, the situation in Libya. Please join our movement. Go to GoFundMe.com/Libya One Challenge /Libya One Challenge. GoFundMe.com/Libya One Challenge. Please go join and invite 5 people, challenge 5 other people to also join. The most important thing is the information. Let's put out the information. Let's invite more and more people to go and do the advertisement and go and do their own $1 as well. Well, do you have the book here? Do you have the book with you? Sorry. Yes, that's it. Okay. Why this book? I'm sure is it the only book of mine that you have read?
No. Okay, so this is what happened. I have known you for a while, but in terms of following your teachings, it began this year.
Okay.
I was a friend on Facebook. I used to share lots of your comments during the election when you used to post things and say, when people would say things about that Buhari was trying to Islamize Nigeria. And I saw that you came out and tackled it. I saw the way you explained, and I said, for a pastor to be saying, go and vote this man, this is the right man for now. For this season, even though he's a Muslim, I need to follow this man. So I began to follow you quietly. And then one day, I can't remember the particular one, I got into your message. I said,
the video live broadcast.
Yeah, the live broadcast. I can't remember the first one. I can't remember, I'll be honest with you. But so it became a daily occurrence. Because of my work, and the time of where I stay, when you guys start is in the middle of my work, and at about 12 noon our time. So I used to use my phone. While I'm working, I put my phone and put my earpiece, and I'm working and I'll be listening. If I need to make a contribution, I step out, go and make that contribution and come back, like when I called you. But I used to be from the office. So when you started advertising those books, so I went on Amazon and I paid for 6 of those books. I paid for this one, then one on leadership, then focus. There's focus, how to keep your focus. And then Nigeria, only God can save Nigeria, what they need. And what's the last one? There were 6 of them. But only 5 came. And this other one didn't come. And I was wondering, what is wrong with this book that didn't come? So by then I had built a nice relationship with Mayowa. And
what is the book that didn't come?
That was, what is that? Oh, I think that's, Nigeria. Only God can save Nigeria, what they need.
It didn't come.
It didn't come. So I said, why is it that this book is the only one that didn't come? So I wrote Mayowa and wrote Julie. And then I kept stopping them. And then fortunately during HMT, there was someone came for HMT from BC, British Columbia. I'm in Alberta in Calgary. He lives in Vancouver. So they asked me, they sent me a link to go and repurchase it there. By then, Amazon had refunded my money. So I went there. When I went there, I said, okay, let me buy 2. So I now pay for that one and another book. And that other book is, what's the title? How to Regain Your Lost Years. Because I feel personally that whatever I think I've gotten to, there are many years I have lost that I need to make up for. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I should have become a politician. I should have joined the political. It's about fear, you know, what will I eat? How will I cope with my family and all those things? Didn't let me get into that. So I regret it. So when you're accusing Nigerians of being docile, I have been guilty of it. But thank God the mind is changing and we're going to make a great change going forward. Amen. So when I got this book, I sent a message to your team. I said to them, I said, I have these books. Do you have an advice on in which order I should read this book? Because I wanted to make the best of it.
You are, even in reading books, you are using brain.
Exactly. I want to see the sequence in which I will gain the best out of it. They didn't reply to me, so I took my initiative and I wrote. If you look well, you will see I wrote 1. Can you see it?
No, show it to the, yeah, that way, yes.
Can you see where I used Biro, the second one?
Yes.
So I wrote 1. Then I wrote 2, 3, 4 in that order, the way I would read it. I thought would make sense. So after this one, the second one I said I was going to read was How to Keep Your Focus. And that is the book I read second. So in the course of reading, just before I finished reading this one, the other books I ordered through your team arrived. So now I'm thinking, what should I read next? Should I go and read? I was thinking of reading the, what is it called? The third one was supposed to be Mountain of Ignorance. So I said, okay, maybe I should change it and read The Lost Years because I need to gain time. So, but anyway, this is the number 1 question, like you said, to ask. This is where it starts. If you don't know what you're doing in this world, you can read any other thing. You'll just be moving from left to right. You know, it'll just be like an aimless moving around. So I want to first of all halt that what I call a decay of aimlessness. Halt it. And I thought this book should be able to give me that. And to be honest with you, it did. One thing, if I can't remember anything in this book, there is one thing I remember: the word consciousness. A lot of us are not conscious of our environment. We're not even conscious of ourselves. So I began to be conscious of myself. In fact, I'll be honest with you, Dr. Sunday, there are a lot of things I would love to share. I actually drew a diagram of my family. I went in where it says you need to find out, name your family, what are the traits in your family. So I did an organogram, what I referred to, and you may not be able to see it clearly, but I have it here. I put it in the PowerPoint. I call it my genealogical tree.
You never did that. You never did that before, eh?
Never.
So do you mean that people in Nigeria don't ask themselves these questions or what?
They do. We may have our genealogy, but when it comes to say, what are the things that in my family line people have been doing? Like, okay, my grandfather was this, my father became this, my mother became this. And see, there's a trend in your family, there's a pattern of skills that will help you begin to know, okay, is this something that is born that God has given your generation that you should carry along? So you understand?
That's analytical approach.
Exactly. So I did that, and I began to see a lot of similarities and commonalities from my grandfather. I realized that my grandfather was an administrator on my maternal side.
Wow.
When the white men came, my grandfather was among the first people who accepted Christianity.
Wow.
He used to be a servant to a white man.
Wow.
So my grandfather didn't necessarily go to school. My grandfather used to read and write. He spoke good English and he was a lover of education. If you come to visit my grandfather before he died, 2 questions he would ask you is, what are you doing? What course are you studying? Are you going to school?
You still met him alive?
I met him alive. I met both of them alive, both on my paternal side and my maternal side. I met them. And I spent more time with my maternal grandfather. And he's one who served white men. He will tell you stories about, he will tell you that Nigeria has gone bad. And when the white people were here, things were like this, things were like this. You know, he sort of gave me a picture of what Nigeria looked like when the colonial masters were here, the order, the way governance was run, the way things were done properly. So lately, having read this book, I began to appreciate those conversations I used to have with him. I said, this man, if this man had even pushed himself a little bit, he would have gone beyond merely being a servant of a white man. He was an administrator. He understands how to organize things. If you come to my grandfather's house, things are properly put in place. And this is at that level, you know, where they didn't go to university. They were not exposed to the kind of knowledge that I know today. Then I traced that through to my other grandfather on the other side. He too was one of the first people who welcomed white men. He was a farmer. He wasn't necessarily very well educated, but guess what? My father's elder brother is a retired diplomat. So he was an administrator. So I began to see that, look, you know what? God actually took time to save me from going to read banking. This is what I should be putting my efforts into doing. So, you know, having read this book, the question I've been asking myself is not just who am I, what am I here? I know who am I. I know who am I. And one other thing I will tell you that the book helped me. You know, I was reading, seeing all the comments you made about people like was it Henry Ford?
Yes.
I think it was Ford. Henry Ford, and then Paul Coelho, who is one author I also love.
Yes.
I read his book severally. I didn't even know until I read this book that the man didn't just become a writer. I began to understand the challenges.
He went through hell.
Exactly. Before even his type of writing was accepted. So one thing I did, and I would like to read it out for people to listen to.
Yes.
I went back to talk about, I said, I need to urgently answer the question, who am I? And I said, Christ answered this question. And how did Christ answer that question? He says, I am the good shepherd. I am the bread of life. I am the true vine.
All the time.
So,
I am.
I am, exactly. So, as I said, Jesus Christ. So this question is a question that God actually wants all of us to be able to answer. Perhaps, no excuse, but perhaps why we don't answer it is because of the way our system of education is structured. We're supposed to have counselors, because I'm here in Canada. You know that when students are graduating from grade 12,
we have counselors,
they sit down with their counselors who start asking them, so who are you?
So do you now think that this book should be introduced to our schools or what?
It should be. I think people in grade 12, if it's possible, should be able to read. When I mean grade 12, I mean SSCE in Nigeria.
Okay.
Before writing WAEC.
Okay.
Don't wait until you get into the university.
Yes.
Many of us began to understand issues of career when we went to university.
Mm-hmm.
Before you leave secondary school, you should start knowing this. You see here in the Western world, even when somebody hasn't answered that question, what do? They leave grade 12. They don't go into university. They take a time out. They spend the next 1 year trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. It's not compulsory that you have to go to the university immediately. Yes. They go and work in Walmart. Yes. They go and work in one place. Those periods are supposed to be a period where they're asking those critical questions. And you suddenly find out after 1 year, they say, I'm ready. I want to go to university. And if you take your time and go back and look at whether it's in the UK, in America, those advanced societies, you find out that people who have accomplished great things, there is a moment where they step back and they're grappling with that question. It's not an easy question.
So it means we should make this book much more popular then. We should talk. What do you think about that? I mean, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere.
I think so. What I will challenge us, and I'm signing up now, is if it's going to be very complex, we'll start looking for a way to break it down for people.
Okay.
There are people who may not be able to immediately assimilate it. I mean, I'm reading this as an adult.
Because it's very thorough. Very thorough.
It's very thorough, yeah. But one good thing about it is in the place where you have
every nugget, yes.
After every
practical part of it.
Exactly. And those things they're not very easy to do. But you see, it's not in being hard, it's the fact that it's not easy makes it good. So it's like a challenge for you to begin to question yourself and seek how to answer those questions. So I think it's a good book. It's something that I think, we can break it down, maybe have smaller portions, pamphlets for people who are at lower levels, something they can immediately begin to relate with. Children don't immediately start chewing hard meat. Start giving them milk, start giving them smaller things, and then gradually you inject it. So, but I think, as for the final question of whether this book is relevant, it's a relevant book. It's something I think people need to go and read. It's something that will challenge you. It's not everything I have read here that I immediately have an answer to how to begin to apply. But I'm happy that at least, that first level of questioning and asking yourself what steps you need to do. I have started trying to take that. I'm preparing to go in and run a course in TV, radio, TV, and broadcasting. Because in the course of doing this analysis, I began to understand. I had been an anchor person, though I get invited on TVs and radio in Nigeria before I left. I used to be on channels with a friend of mine who had a sports program. And people used to tell me, you're doing well on this platform. Have you thought about being this? But you see, if this my friend didn't give me that chance, I wouldn't know. So now I'm relating my studies back in university, bringing my work experience, and I'm asking myself, okay, the next 20 years, max, God says he has given us 70 years. So I have done a timeline for myself that I have 20 years before Jesus comes, either before I die or Jesus comes, to be able to, not necessarily within that 20 years, but shorter than 20 years, but I just have 20 years to be able to make a difference. So that when I leave this world, I can say, like Paul, I have run the race. At the moment, I'll be honest with you, if God was to visit me now, I cannot say I have run the race.
Yeah, because you are still working. You are still working for Uncle Sam. You are still surviving. You are still...
Exactly, And those are some of the things I'm trying to see how I can break away. I'm putting on a plan, working every day. In fact, sometimes when you don't see me on air listening to you, it is that I am working, I'm reading a book or something, and I will come back later in the evening to watch what happened, that day. So I think it's a relevant book. It's a book, it's a pregnant book, let me put it that way. It's pregnant with too many things. And, you just every day you keep asking yourself, what next? How do I tackle this? How do I accomplish this? How do I fulfill this?
So it's a book that actually pushes and motivates you to begin to ask questions and act.
Yes. It first of all will make you cry, depending on who you are. For me, like I told my wife, I said the book made me cry.
Are you serious?
It made me afraid. And that fear was not fear of, it was a fear of the child. If I meet my God now, what will I tell him?
No, but why should you put the blame then only on the educational system? Why don't you put the blame on the pastors too? Because I'm a pastor. I'm not an educational system person. But I was able to write this book. Okay, maybe the churches could have helped us in Nigeria because you have so many churches.
Okay, but Sunday, one thing I would like you to go away with today is you left Nigeria at 19 years. And if you had spent another 19 years in this country, only God knows what your mind would be like. But you left, and God began to make you unlearn whatever it is you had learned. And then by the time, and of course you were in a culture where efficiency, effectiveness, the educational system, you took some courses and all that, and your mind changed. You began to see things from a different perspective. What is happening is we have been fed a system. We've gone through a process, and sometimes people who come to your platform to struggle, it's actually not because they don't like what you're saying. They are struggling. It's a new idea to them. They're struggling. Let me tell you one thing. When I came to Canada, God prepared me before I came to Canada. And I'll tell you how. God took me to those different jobs where I was exposed internationally. I would live in Nairobi. I would walk around in the streets of Nairobi. It's Africa. But I saw the order. I saw the peace. I saw the way things were happening. Then I worked in Coca-Cola, where it was a system-driven organization. Things are done systemically. In Coca-Cola, you're not allowed to do anything without following due process. You get sacked. No matter how well-intentioned you are, things must follow due order. I was exposed to all these things and I traveled. See, those traveling and all those things, I allowed those things to become part of me, but they helped me in being able to, when I got to Canada, I was able to adjust. People struggle when they come to Canada. People struggle with the driving system. When you come to Canada, even if you have been driving for 20-something years, you have to go and learn driving afresh. You need to learn how to drive following the rules, following the signages, obeying speed limits. People are not used to all those things. So when they come and they hear this kind of thing, imagine what they're calling you devil, they're calling you antichrist, because those things are a bit strange to them. And that's the way the Pharisees and the people in Jesus Christ's time were struggling with what they were trying to do.
People like you and people like other people, they've gone to churches in Nigeria. Churches like even your own church, or people have been exposed to Miles Monroe's books. So when they now come across this, but I thought, okay, Miles Monroe spoke about purpose and everything. So why should this book shock you? Why should it bring tears from your eyes?
Okay, so it was okay. Like I said, a lot of things you do back home.
And it's not just you. Many people, everybody is saying the same thing.
All right. For me, now I'll speak for myself. Like I said, we do a lot of theory. We don't do practice. There are a lot of things I know.
Okay.
There are a lot of things in your book that are not new to me exactly.
Okay.
But the practicality, and if you remember, I think there was a time I called in and I said, my challenge is how do we translate this theory to practice? It's necessary. That's where we as a nation, as Nigerians, are struggling. And in my personal life, that's what I have seen. I have been largely theoretical. I haven't been very practical. And that practicality is what has not allowed me to fully accomplish the reason why God put me in this world. So it is that practicality I am crying about, and I'm saying, God, I'm 43 years old. If we go by what the word of God says, 70 years is max for a man. So I have 27 years left, actually 26. What can I accomplish in that? That's why I said to you, I have 20 years to be able to do something tangible. I'm not asking that my name be popular, but I just want to be able to say, okay, this is my footprint. This is what I have done. And I know God will be happy with this. It could be the fact that maybe I find myself being maybe a commissioner, or become a governor, or I join the political process, or whatever it is, or run an NGO that would help do something tangible. You have done something tangible. We see your footprints in Ukraine. We see your footprints through the materials you have documented. We see your footprints through the set of people you are raising. I enjoy watching my work, and that's one of the other things that attract me to you. It is not easy to share your platform. You share that platform with them. You're not struggling space. You're allowing them to be who God wants them to be through your guidance. And some of those things are not happening back home. There are people who are doing it. But not too many. It's not the norm. It's not the norm. So I'm struggling. I'm crying and saying, I should have been a leader. I should have been somebody who's doing the kind of things Pastor Sunday is doing, helping people, grooming other people. But I haven't fully done that. And so it's a heartfelt, deep cry in my heart that I think I need to go back and begin to lay down this, the process to be able to accomplish that. Even if it means I do it in 5 years, I will go to feel that I was able to do something that I can say, this is what God brought me into this world to do.
Now, something, the good churches in Nigeria, the one like your church, your pastor is my friend, and they brought me there. So he's a good guy. He's one of the best out there. But even a church like that, who is the good one? What they have done, the best Nigerian pastors have done is that they will give you good teachings for you to be successful in life. And that is what my friend Miles Monroe also used to do. But that is not what life is about. By the time you finish reading the book, you know that not just about being successful in life. It's about discovering who heaven meant you to be and making you to step out to actually go and accomplish that.
Exactly. There are people.
But people are running after success. Most of the Christians that I know from Nigeria want to get a good thing going on for them.
Pastor Sunday, you have just hit the point. That was success. You see, like I told you, remember when we started, I said I should have been a politician. I should have joined the political process, be a member of one political party. Maybe if I had been there learning, I probably would have found a space to begin to make a difference. But you see, we're so consumed and concerned with what we would eat. We're so consumed and concerned with how would our family be taken care of? Now, I live in a society now where you find people, they take a step, they say, okay, I'm leaving, I'm not working for the next 1 year. I need to go and do something. Then they sign up for what they call EI. So even though they're not making exactly what they used to do, but the social system has their back a little bit while they go and pursue that goal and accomplishment. And it's in every advanced society. People go on leave.
They set themselves from Uncle Sam.
Exactly. But the Nigerian society, if you don't work, if you don't do a thing for 1 day, you won't feed. Unless you're a thief, unless you're somebody who is in the payroll of politicians who they drop money for every month. But
or maybe you have been trained. If you have been trained though to combine and make your calling to earn money for you.
Exactly. I would have. That's why I say I as much as I blame the system, I also take.
Because when you read this book, I don't think you have this book. Stop working for me.
No, I haven't got that one yet.
You don't have this book. But this book, that's what it tells you, how to make this shift from working for Uncle Sam, just working, to creating a system that will now allow you to have money working for you while you work for your destiny. Exactly. The same thing in this book. Yes. How to regain your lost years.
I have this one.
So if you, by the time you finish reading it, you will discover that shift also is the same. You'll be able to make the shift from, working, just working to make a living and survive, into becoming the person that God wants you to become.
Exactly. Exactly. And there have been people who have accomplished great things in Nigeria who have managed, through some hard work. And that brings me to a couple of other values you mentioned in that book.
Actually, one of the questions I will ask you is mention 5 to 10 main lessons that you got from this book.
Okay, I think I have some things I wrote down here.
Yes.
Just indulge me a little bit.
Yes, just one by one.
Yes. Good. I think I found it.
Because it's a pity that our churches are full of people, and we have millions of people go to church in Nigeria. But if you have listened to the testimonies and stories of members of our church here, I mean, they don't need to be in church for years or for ages. All of them are doing tremendous, incredible things just by being in church for 6 months or 1 year. They discover, because the whole church is set up in a way to help you go through this, discover who you are. The very first year, you must go through this and discover and feel it out practically. So your life becomes purposeful from the very first year you come to church.
Yeah. So practically, some of the things that I have picked, principles I have picked from this book are, number one, like I already mentioned, is that consciousness. So self-awareness, to be conscious of who you are, to identify the benefit, the things, the ingredients God has deposited in you that is different from what he has given to Mayowa. And then the other thing is taking a step to begin to say, how do I begin to fulfill this? Which is where I am now. That's the second step, exact stage. Now, one other thing that I picked out from the book is the fact that, where did I write it? I wrote it down here. Okay, I think it's here. Now, in setting goals, many of us are already exposed to the SMART approach of, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timeline. But we don't necessarily follow through. And people have spoken about following through. So you may not be the first person to say, but there's something instructive you said in the book about following through, how to follow through. And that is why I began to force myself to write down when I was reading the book. Actually, when I got to that stage, I said, okay, you know what? Let me go back. So I went back and started. Then as I do, I write. And then you begin to ask yourself, measure yourself in terms of putting those goals before you every day, so that it becomes like a body. It's like something that is indicting you. We don't put ourselves in a position where we get self-indicted. And the biggest way, be the one to indict yourself, to shame yourself, say, you know what you said you're supposed to do today, you have not done it. Let that word keep creeping on you. And that's what I'm beginning to do now, to say to myself, every day you need to do this. I just got my transcript that I'm going to use to apply for a program I want to do. I told you I want to do, because at some point I actually even started forgetting about it. I said, no. I can't go back to that state of inertia. Just going to work every day. I need to go and do this. So I stepped out. I wrote them. It cost me money.
That is point 2, 3, or 3?
3. So I've talked about consciousness. Then I've talked about trying to link, bring out what you have identified as the quality God has put into you into practice.
Yes.
Then I have talked about, setting those timelines of how and when.
Yes.
I have set the timeline of how I want to do it. I've given myself a frame time. I've said 20 years. I've actually even written it down and said, by this time, this needs to happen. Now, the other thing is, you spoke about the fact that you can't go it alone. In fact, and in 2 of your books I've read now, plus, pardon me if you don't mind, one of the videos I edited recently, talking about the teamwork and how being in a team, having those guys fulfill that thing, they are learning from it. So one thing God has done divinely is that he has linked me to, I went for a party and I met someone in Nigeria and we became very close here in Canada.
In Canada?
Yes, and we started talking and I started telling him I'm thinking about going to take a course in radio, television and broadcast. And he said, Guy, that he has a proposal to set up a radio station, that he doesn't know how to go about it, that he would like us to work together, that I should take this very serious. So I was looking at him. In fact, he has set a big goal for me now, that I'm now asking myself, how do I go and start fulfilling this portion? Because he says to me, he has the platform, he wants to accomplish it. That here in Canada, we need to set up a Nigerian or African radio station that will cater and speak to the needs of our people. Because Canada is an open country. You have the Indians, they have their radio stations. They do things that, in fact, they have gotten to the stage where major movies are subtitled in their language for their people. Because not every Indian that is in Canada that speaks English very well. So, so already, God is already showing me that, okay, if you take this very seriously, I'm going to open the way. So it's now left for me now to make sure laziness and all those things that come and creep in and, devour the thing, and before you know it, you don't fulfill it, I begin to take that step. So that's the other thing that this book helped me to identify. And then lastly is the fact that for you to fulfill your goals and objectives, that you must literally, if the world is going left, you must courageously learn to go right. It is not by popular opinion. You have to deliberate. And the examples you gave about the lady, what did you call her? I think I wrote it down somewhere here. Kate, the lady you said who, she moved from one country to the other with her parents. In the country she went to, she enjoyed it.
Yes.
She could see herself blossoming in that place. But she allowed her parents' pressure to take her back to a place where she couldn't fulfill purpose. And sometimes we need to disentangle ourselves from circumstances, from people, not because we're wicked, but because this higher calling that the Lord has called us to fulfill is more important, because He's going to ask you. He's going to ask you, He's a God of accountability. He's going to ask you, this thing I gave you. I tell people, when you read the parable of the talents, what do you think God was talking about there? He gives you something, He's going to ask you how far. What have you done with it? How did you use it? How did you begin to apply everything I gave you? So that's another thing that I picked up from. There are lots of things. I don't know how many I've mentioned.
If you want to recommend this book to somebody who is watching now, you talk to them. What will you say to them?
Okay. First of all, I will say to them that we are creations of God. And God does not make a mistake. When God brought us into this world, He brought us in for a purpose. We're designed specifically to fulfill certain aspects of what God has left in our hands. God finished molding us, like we said in the book. He took the remaining portion of the clay and handed it into our hands and said, go and have dominion. So for you to be able to have dominion, you need to identify who you are. Dominion means you're in control, you're in charge. You cannot be in charge if you do not know what you're supposed to be in charge of. God has placed certain things in our charge, but you cannot be in charge of that thing if you don't know what it is. And to help us better, Paul realized that he wasn't called to speak to the Jews. he was called to speak to the Gentiles. That was his calling. And of course, he knew clearly these are the people I'm meant for. So we all need to go back. What this book will help us do is that it helps you unlock that unconsciousness and you become conscious. Like you said, you wake up every day. When I wake up every day now, my mind just tells me my goals, what I'm supposed to fulfill.
But what I have noticed with Nigerians, though, especially this generation of Nigerians who are 50 and below, is that they are much more particular about being okay, making it. That we have a good job, and everything is going well. They want to increase the job, have better salary, more comfortable. Have things going on for them. They are not driven by purpose. That's what I'm trying to say.
But Sunday, to an extent, you're right. The generation is actually driven by purpose. But what is happening to the generation is they are feeling powerless. So, and which I'm also guilty of, because I will not exonerate myself, is that when we try and we hit a rock, we give up. We just conclude that, okay, it's not meant to be.
But now you are charged.
Yes, but this book is saying, when you hit a rock, and you use the illustration of the aircraft taking off.
Yes.
We said in the book that we must realize that when an aircraft is taking off, it is fighting against the wind. In fact, I was very fortunate recently, and I just think God was just bringing all these things together for a reason. I was coming back from another city. I flew to Ottawa. I live in Calgary, so I flew to Ottawa. And to get to Ottawa, I have to fly from Calgary to Toronto, from Toronto to Ottawa. On my return flight, I was given an opportunity to sit inside the cockpit with the pilots. The two pilots and myself sat in the cockpit. I flew with them. And I was amazed. The view is different. The view is different. You're seeing things from a different perspective. And the first thing and the funny thing, the day I was flying, I had this book. I was reading this book. I read this book on my way, and I was reading it back on my way. So when I got into the aircraft and they said there was not enough seats, and told me, do you mind flying in the cockpit? I said, I don't mind if the pilot allowed me. The pilot said, come in, sit down. And I flew. I saw the way they took off. So when we were reading that story, I was laughing. I said, so this God is just, I don't think I have an excuse. I need to do something. He was showing me the way the aircraft takes off, the view I was seeing. That was my first time sitting inside the cockpit. They don't allow anybody anyhow sit there because I could have been a terrorist and I would hijack the aircraft. But I sat there, I saw the way they view, the way they take control. They're in the steering, they take control of that aircraft. And that is the same way with our life. What this book is saying is for you to be able to drive that aircraft, you need to understand the way the aircraft is driven. And you, me and the aircraft now. Because I'm the one controlling my life. Yes, God is in charge once in a while, and I want to go to left, and God will say, go right, and I have to allow the Holy Spirit guide me. But largely, the decisions I take, if I'm not conscious of myself, there are environments I shouldn't go into. There are things that may not suit me. There are times I don't have to wait. If I understand the way I operate, that's why this book is very important. It's like a manual. The Bible is our biggest manual, yes, but this book has been written to be able to help us. Like I said, there's an issue of consciousness. We're not very conscious people. And, we wake up, we just do things anyhow. We wake up, we waste time. We're not allowing the time to count. Like the Bible says, redeeming the time.
But do you know I have a whole book on consciousness? It's called How to Be in the Here and Now.
And now, I'm sure it would be a great book. These are some of the things people need to see. That consciousness is very important. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they were very conscious.
Very conscious.
Very, very conscious. Even somebody was telling us a story recently of Warren Buffett. He wanted to go to Harvard. He was turned down from going to Harvard. And then he went somewhere else, accomplished his goal. But he knew what his goals and purpose was.
So if you could wake our people up and teach them consciousness, how to be in the here and now. Because, technically, scientifically, people have said that anybody who is in the here and now accomplishes 90% of his goal, while ordinary people accomplish only 10 or less than 10.
I think that's correct. That's correct. People need to be in the here and now. And being in the here and now, that consciousness, brings me to some aspects that we have usually used as a reason why we fail like I mentioned, the system. So you see, when you are in the here and now and you are conscious, you know who you are. What you simply do is you begin to look out for the how the system that is not working will benefit you. What you begin to do is you begin to see opportunities. You begin
to say, everywhere.
Exactly. You begin to open your eyes, which largely for a greater portion of my life, I didn't do. You know, yes, Nigeria is difficult, challenging, but there are opportunities. And if I knew some of the things I know now, maybe I would have begun to take those steps, begin to say, okay, I will take this step, I will ride on this. Like the aircraft thing I've used as an example. The aircraft rides on the storm.
Okay, somebody is asking me, when will these boats get to Nigeria? If I have some inside information, that from Shioma that by Christmas, all these books will be in Nigeria. By Christmas, all these books. This is how to be in the here and now. This is how to be in the here and now. This is who am I. This is how to raise the next generation of Steve Jobs and
Bill
Gates. This is urgently become a workaholic. This is the veritable source of energy. This is how to be great through time conversion. This is no one is better than you. This is discover your latent energy. This is how to overcome the fear of death.
Mm-hmm.
This is the danger of monoculturalism or tribalism. So all these books, many more. These are just the latest we just printed here. But many more will be in Nigeria by Christmas. So before the new year, surely, I guess, you have all these books in Nigeria. But what I'm thinking is, what will you say to people who are saying, Pastor Sunday is selling his books? They don't even know that. I don't even know who sells them, how they sell them. That's not my concern. But you know, for 1 year, I've been talking here. I've been doing daily broadcasts, and I never really speak about my book. But then I discovered that, no, I'm depriving people. People don't even know what they are missing. So that's why I started talking about it. But people say, no, just tell people, go and read the Bible, that's all. Is that our religious upbringing, or what? Just read the Bible only. Tell people just read the Bible.
So there is no minister that is worth his onions and who has substance. That's even if I don't know, let's even leave whether their books are good or not. That I have never seen talk about selling their books. Their GOs talk about their books.
Even the GOs of these people.
Yes. So they talk about selling their books. When I met Miles Monroe, the first time, it was his books. And then I began to, in fact, somebody gave me a pack of his messages.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay, I'm urging people to go and read. I think that people don't want to be challenged. People do things that when you are telling them to do something differently, and remember, they say the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing in the same way and to expect a different result. So we're telling them to go and read books. And of course, whose books we tell them to read? Because you know what you're reading, will encourage them to go and read and to encourage themselves. You're not saying they shouldn't read other books, but you're saying these are issues that I've written about. I think these things will help. So I think it will do anybody any good. I'm not an author. I would gladly invest in buying books. It's not convenient for me to spend money and buy books, but I know how much I spend in buying books. I have a library where I'm sitting here with 2 shelves full of books, So I think reading books and then applying them and looking at the Bible and reading them and in context will always help an individual. There's nothing absolutely wrong in it. And there should be no reason for a guys to tell anybody to go and buy a book and read.
But I'm going to tell you something which I think will be a gift to you and to every person, every African. I think it will be a gift for you because you like to read. But this is my gift. If I'm going to die today, it's one of the things I'm going to be satisfied that I did for my generation. I have books I have efforts that I've putting in place, something I want to be remembered for that I've done for my country. Then there's something that I've done for my continent. So there is something that I've done for my race. This is my gift to my race. And it's a research book. This took me 3 years to do, but I got it ready. and the gift for my race is this one book. I don't know if you can see it written, the title of the book. You can't see it.
I can't see it properly because the screen is getting a bit bad.
Okay, how Africans brought civilization to Europe.
Okay, I can see the pictures, the individuals around.
Yeah.
Around.
How Africans brought civilization to Europe, but that's not it alone. Then it also says what the phenomenal role of Africans on all continents. People would not believe it that Africans started Japan or China or America, or that they brought civilization to Europe. It's mind-blowing. This is a book of research, only research. I didn't do too much commentary here. Only research, 300 pages of research, just document, and so that we will have dignity, dignity, self-honor, respect will come back. This book is not here in the paper or something yet, but it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. How African brought civilization to Europe. Can you believe that?
And you know what? Research is what helps us to, you see, sometimes informations are distorted. But you see, like what you're doing now, you go and do your research, you bring the information accurately the way it is. Like yesterday, the video you shared with us that some of us were watching about Margaret Thatcher. That's another person who woke up and realized, look, she needed to set Britain on the right path. And you see how that documentary spoke about it. But you know what? Without reading, without being exposed to sound information, what you just take is what anybody distorts and throws at you, which is usually what happens when people are religious. In the religious houses we're talking about, people they just give them like the way you give your dog food and your sheep is what you give them. If you don't go to your dog and your sheep to give them food, they don't eat. But you see, when you're around somebody who says, go beyond what I just tell you, go and research, which is what you're doing. You expose them to books, not in one subject area. Yes, you're a minister of the word of God, but you're speaking on economy, you're speaking on leadership, you're speaking on transformation, you're speaking on diverse areas. And that is what this brain God has given us is for. So if you're using it, I'm not trying to here to come and patronize you, but if you're using it and you're calling people to say, look, follow my steps. Jesus Christ says, follow my steps, see what I do and do it. You understand? So I don't think there's anything wrong in that. People should learn they don't necessarily have to agree with you. They should know that in everything. But it should just give you a fair chance to say, let me hear what this person is saying.
But you sincerely think this book will help everybody that's watching?
If this book, if I didn't believe in it, when Julie was talking about, Julie almost made me not talk about this book. She tried to make me talk about something as I said, look, that this is one book at my heart at the moment. And what I've said to myself is, I am going to go back again and read it. It's not just good enough to read it once, so I need to go back and read it a second time because I have marked things inside the book. That is when those things will actually come alive, will flow out into you and will probably get into your spirit man and engineer you to do something. I want to go beyond merely reading just for the fun. I want to read to be able to pick something from.
Especially they are practical books, very practical.
Like I said to you, look at what I drew. You don't know that we talk about drawing your family tree. Yes, we draw a family tree. Oh, this is where I came from, following your genealogy. But what this one did for me was to say, identify the things that are peculiar in your family. So see, in fact, beyond me now, I'm actually even setting a tone now for my children. Because what it means is that by the time I finish, as they're going into school and they're talking about what careers, I'm not going to influence them, but I'll be quietly watching and listening, and I'll be comparing what they are telling me with what I have
and expose them to the history, to the genealogy.
Exactly. You understand? And you know what? We're each called to take the issue of the kingdom of God one step from where we met it. The early Christians brought the Bible and all those things. People like you and other ministers who are doing the right thing are taking it a step further from merely sitting in church, merely having an education and having a degree and just go to one paid job. You are saying you cannot consciously say you have fulfilled the purpose of God, if you don't identify what God brought you here for, and begin to be the champion of that matter. This was not the way the gospel was presented before. The early Christianity I knew when I started becoming a Christian was, we come to church, we see Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. But you see what? These things are being taken a step further. And I personally think that God has a reason for always doing it that way. Even if you look at where the book of the law started before Jesus Christ came, it's just like a progression. It just keeps progressing society and civilization, further. So we need to open our minds. The Spirit of God is not an author of confusion. He knows what he's doing. So when resources like this come into your life at such a time like this, I encourage people to make the best of it. You see, if you don't make the best of it, people in Japan who are not Christians will make the best of it.
I still want to, if you don't mind, to invite you back, because I don't know, I will tell Julie if that is allowed or not, to tell you that anytime you finish reading any other book and you are excited about it, that I would like to have you back instead of having another person, because I'm excited talking to you.
I am gladly available. To be honest with you, I'll be very honest with you. Beyond merely just appearing and the world is seeing me, what you're also doing is, this is part of training, because it's an exposure to be able to talk about, do a book review. It's an exposure for you to be, what it does is that now I know that, okay, if I read, I can break this down for other people. So having this opportunity to be able to do this and give my perspective is not just an honor. I think it's also something I'm learning from, because all I've spoken about today, I'm also going to learn from it. It's not going to leave me. I'm going to be the first person to enjoy it.
And then you are going to do it.
Exactly. So I think that's how people need to begin to see this. This is what education is all about. And education is total. Your Bible, God wants you to be educated, understand your Bible, thorough, and which is why even in the Bible it talks about knowledge. It talks about sound understanding. So he's just comprehensive. Like I was saying before we went into this, Japan is not a Christian nation, but they are taking books, templates from Christians, from ministers that they think will benefit their society, and they're applying it, and they're becoming better for it. How much more those of us who come from countries where we have Christianity as a part of us? Why do we find it difficult to take books?
Because we Christians, we don't talk about books like, where are they? We don't talk about things like how to raise the next generation, technology, how to raise the next generation of Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. We don't kind of talk these things in the church. Or then they become a workaholic. We don't kind of the creative and innovative power of a genius. Which church will tell you about that? Or veritable source of energy. We kind of become too religious. Or how to build your secure financial future. We don't, who talks about that?
Maybe you talk about the financial one, but they talk about it from the angle of acquire.
Yes.
Exactly.
Or how to become a hero. Don't just live your life. Become a hero in this life. Or, the leadership question. Or mountain of ignorance. Or dignity of labor. What to do with your time. How to convert time into greatness. How to be better than everybody else. These are just subjects that we need to begin. I think that's what you are talking about, that Christianity is advancing. We need to begin to raise up these Steve Jobs and Bill Gates caliber of people in the church. And we must be able to give into their hand the instrument to do it. And that book we are talking about today, Who Am I? It is a tool that will help everybody to become anything they want to become if they are serious about it.
Yeah, it's a key.
Yeah.
It's a key. It helps you to,
Thank you so much, CHIMEZIE. Now I have to talk about Libya again, the Libya challenge. www.gofundme.com/Libya1challenge. This is for people to help our people. We want to raise $1 million and we want to help any amount. It doesn't matter how much we raise. But if we raise 1 million, I will double it from my pocket so that we'll be able to help all those who are coming back from Libya and even those who are still there so that we'll be able to help them. So please share the word, share the message, put the banner out and call out at least 5 people. You wanted to say something about this?
Yeah, I think it's after I listened to the prof yesterday.
Yes, sir.
I had my understanding about the Libya issue, and when I listened to it yesterday, I began to realize that the truth about the matter is we need to go beyond government, and some of the things you're doing is a way to go. Yes, the government has a place, a part to play, but individuals, groups, we have our part to play also. You know, to support what you have just said, I will use one illustration.
Okay.
In the whole argument over the tithing matter, I went back and I was studying, and God spoke to me at something. I usually don't like to say God spoke to me, but He opened my eye about something. He said, here in Canada, in the city you live, you have a body called Calgary Food Bank. And Calgary Food Bank is where people who are poor, who don't have anything, who have lost their jobs, they go there occasionally, they get referrals from institutions to go there, and they give them supplies. Institutions, individuals, organizations contribute to the Calgary Food Bank. And then from there, I have volunteered there to work there and assist them in shelving things in my spare time. I volunteer with them, I major volunteer with them. I go there to help them organize, the hampers I'm going to give out during the course of the week. I do that regularly. The day I was working there, God said, what do you think about this place? I said, it's a store. He said, good. Store what? Then he clicked, a storehouse. It's a storehouse. This is the storehouse I'm talking about, where bring everything so that there will be meat in my house. And from there, I distribute to these poor people. So what you're doing, this hashtag, this is how it goes. It's not about you. You're okay. God has blessed you. If you don't do this thing, nothing's going to happen. But you see what? Being able to remember that the poor, we will have the poor in our midst, and it's our responsibility to take care of them. Our brethren who went to live there, they may have been misled. They may have done things because they didn't understand purpose, but now they're coming back. Let's take care of them the way the prodigal son was taken care of by his father. It's not enough to beat them and say, what did they go there to do? Fine, we can say that. But now, we have the opportunity to begin to show them love. And I think when institutions begin to take care of them like this, many of them will begin to think about their lives. They will begin to think about, you know what, I think I can make it in this country. In fact, they will begin to search. This is when you can even begin to expose them to things like this, as against just leaving them. Yeah, so we're taking responsibility, which is what God has called us, and I think it's the right thing. I am going to contribute. Between now and before the end of the month, I will make my contribution to that, and I will also share it with my friends to tell them, let us go and make our contributions. Pastor Sunday, you're doing a great work. You're doing a great work. I don't know how you manage, and there is no leader who is doing the right thing. The right thing. Criticisms come. We criticize bad people. We also criticize good people. But you see what? It is one thing to be doing the right thing and pushing it, and criticisms come. They will come, but don't relent. Don't bother. Don't even join issues, because sometimes those join of issues may even be a distraction from the goal, because the enemy knows, if I can get this man to just get off this thing and then exchange of unnecessary, but you just focus and the results will speak. Like Margaret Thatcher said yesterday, we would do what we need to do and let the people remember us for what we did. So that's the one thing I want to say. It's a lovely time. You've just done a wonderful job so far. Thank you. Thank you. And I feel grateful that I came in contact with you. It's sometimes we don't know how fate plays out to bring us in touch with people who will help our life. Take us away from the direction we're going and say, that way we're going is not the right way. Move this way. And that's my prayer. I have always told people I prefer to be in contact with honest, truthful people who will give me the truth without minding how my face looks. Those are the people I like to hang around. I am careful about people who put salt and pepper for me to make it look it's okay for me. I'm very careful. But when I see somebody who tells it to me the way it is, even when it's not happy with me, says, look, that's not the right thing, I feel happy. And those are the people I want to cling to, because my destiny is very important to me to play Kalokalo with.
Thank you, sir. People are appreciating you. They are writing a lot of comments here, thanking you for coming, and thank you for your mind and for your sharing, and they want you to come back. And some of them are saying they see that I'm excited about you. They're happy about that too. And for those who are asking where to get the book, you could get directly. You can get the book directly, and that way it will even cost you cheaper than buying it on Amazon. Also, we give people opportunities to make money. You can make money on these books. So you can actually become a distributor of the book and make up to 60-70% from each book. So the way to do that is just write to DSA and S, DSS books, one word, DSS books at gmail.com, DSS books at gmail.com, DSS books at gmail.com. Or you could go to my blog and just, if you want to just buy a book, go to my blog, SundayAdelajablog.com/books. But to distribute and to make money is DSSbooks at gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody. We are going to be back in 30 minutes. In the next 30 minutes, I will be live again talking about, unfortunately, it's a painful topic, but how pastors and churches hypnotize. I'm a pastor myself, but I've got to talk about it because of what's going on in Africa. How pastors and churches hypnotize people. So see you. CHIMEZIE, thank you so much. Greet your family for me. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye.